So, good morning, everyone. Lovely to be with you. My name is Ulla Koenig, and I'm very happy to join you on this week's morning session on Sangha Life. We are going to talk about the second Noble Truth this week. We did a session on the first Noble Truth a couple of weeks ago in September. So if you haven't joined us for the last session and some bits and pieces of information might be a little unknown to you, there is the option on Sangha Life in the Dharma library to check in on those past sessions. And let me do just a little bit of framework before we then go into the topic. So first of all, the idea for these sessions this week is for me to give a little talk about an aspect of the Second Noble Truth for about 20 minutes. And then we're going to meditate with this theme. And in the very end, there will be an opportunity for you to share your experiences. Maybe you have some questions. Maybe there is some resistance to something I said. And you can put all of that into the chat box. And you find the chat box on the right where you wrote your lovely messages to each other. And if you do me a favor, you just put question or reflection or something in capital letters, and then I will know that it's something for me to address at the end of the session. Okay, so let's get started. And you might remember these 4 Noble Truths, and the first Noble Truth we talked about last time. And I read you the second Noble Truth, which will be our bread and butter this week. So the Buddha said when he gave his very first discourse in his long-lasting teaching career of 45 years, he started off with the discourse which offered his former ascetic friends, a framework to practice with, and that he called the 4 Noble Truths. So it's one framework, one aspect of working with the Dharma, working with our lives, looking deeply into the dynamics of our lives. But I wish to say it's just one framework. Yeah. Sometimes it will fit in nicely for you. I find it a very helpful framework. And at other times it won't be the key to your door. So just listen, practice with it, work with it, and then just see how it fits in. The second Noble Truth sounds like this. There is a noble truth concerning the arising of suffering, a thirst for something to be in the future that is bound up with relish and obsession and is always running here and there. That is thirst for sense input, thirst to be someone, thirst not to be someone. And as usual, at least in my case, I listened to that when I came across that the first couple of times and thought, what is the meaning of that? And we are going to unpack the parcel together this week. So bit by bit, we're going to understand, hopefully, a bit more. And there's always more to discover. So today we're going to work with that very first sentence. There is a noble truth concerning the arising of suffering. The word suffering, you might remember, is the word Dukkha. And the Buddha stated in that first Noble Truth that Dukkha is a natural part of human life. Dukkha is a common denominator as humans, maybe as conscious living beings on that planet. And that means that we all experience loss and sickness and aging, and we're all confronted with experiences we rather don't have, and all experience situations where we don't get what we want, in the small and in the large scale. That is true for all of us. And the Buddha said it's important to recognize that. It's not a mistake, it's not a failure, it's a part of life. And as it is there, how important will it be, if you can't make it go away, to learn about ways to be with and respond to. Both. Yeah, both are important. To be with and respond to. The dukkha, the smaller, the larger, the more obvious, and the less obvious, maybe the unconscious dukkhas in our lives. So the second noble truth links nicely to that. How do we respond to dukkha? Yeah, and you can imagine that how you respond or react, what your habitual patterns and beliefs around dukkha are, will cause you more or less trouble, more or less stress and pain, more or less dukkha. So we almost have like a spiraling process. So the Buddha said it's important to look deeply into dukkha and then look deeply into what does our heart minds. It's not so much I which plan the reaction, but it's our heart mind's response to that. It gets frightened. It wants to push it away. It feels there is something to get. It moves towards that. It feels pulled, pushed, shoved. It freezes. It wants to flee. It wants to attack. Yeah, that's all chitta trying to respond to the frictions in our lives. Quite natural in a way. And the Buddha said we can be aware of that, and we can find maybe more and more skillful ways to respond to dukkha. The word which comes up here is, he said, there is a noble truth concerning the arising of suffering. That is another very interesting word. The word arising means something arises, some, mudaya is the word, some means together with, some arising together with something. So something is arising together with dukkha. Yeah, what that might be our response, our reaction to dukkha, that is arising with dukkha. Or we could also, that is the alternative interpretation, say, well, dukkha is arising based on certain causes and conditions. These are the two interpretations you will over and over with different teachers read about this second noble truth. Let me unwrap that a bit more for you. Samudaya, suffering is arising or something arises with suffering. I find both interpretations extremely helpful, and there will be an appropriate time for both of them, so we don't need to get into a discussion about what is the right translation here. I find it, for example, very important that we understand that our suffering is not falling from the sky and now is plaguing us. It's not something which came up by mere coincidence, which maybe is our fate, which is just our destiny. The Buddha strongly dismissed all of these ideas, said it's not something God sent to us, it's not something which comes from past lifetimes, it's something which comes due to causes and conditions. Yeah, it's like a puzzle, and different puzzle pieces contribute to the dukkha in our lives. And the first, and you know that Irish proverb, give me the clarity to see what I can do and I can't do. Yeah, that is a first starting of wisdom here to say, well, some of those puzzle pieces, I will be able to work with. Yeah, I will have smaller and larger influence and impact over. And then there are pieces of puzzle pieces in your life where you don't have any control over. Yeah. So, and that is a first discernment. So if we do that, and I think we do that a lot as human beings already, we are looking deeply into the reasons or into the dynamics which contribute to our suffering. What are the dynamics which bring it up? And where do I have, with my mindfulness, with my wisdom, with my clarity, with my calm in the being, an ability to make a difference? Not controlling it, but neither being completely a victim to it. Yeah, where are the smaller places I can make a difference? So this is the first interpretation. And the second interpretation is now something is arising together with dukkha. And I find that is extremely liberating and helpful interpretation as well, because that says that the reaction we have to the unpleasant, to the unsatisfying, to the challenging experiences in our lives, that is not something we make up. That is not something we create on purpose. That is almost our heart mind's natural reaction to something unpleasant. Some unpleasant, unsatisfactory impact upon our sensitivity, our heart mind, will almost always generate a response, a reaction, an impulse. The heart mind suggests, oh, bring yourself into safety, or get ready to fight, this is dangerous. And to say, oh, can I look into what arises together with dukkha and accept that? The heart mind, the body, they all constantly are very much interested in keeping us alive and healthy and striving. So yes, of course it does react and respond to dukkha. It's its job, kind of. And we can, with our awareness, and we can, with our practice, over a long distance of time, start to discern between healthy and not so healthy responses and reactions. So I said before that both aspects of this rising of suffering will be important. Of course, we need to reflect on the circumstances, the intentions, the outer and inner conditions which bring stress and suffering into our lives. Why did I react this way? And as the Buddha said, this image of the puzzle pieces is so important. When I say just I reacted this way because I am a bad person, we are dismissing almost the puzzle piece nature of experiences. Say, oh no, there was much more involved than that. We can almost put aside this image of the bad person. Say, what are the true contributing factors? There was tiredness in the mind, and there was maybe an aching body. There was a real fear because of feeling threatened by the other. And then I noticed that the heart mind went to the habit of defense, for example. I think, oh, these are the puzzle pieces. And maybe more things come into the play as well. To say, can I open up the picture? Broaden the perspective. To say, what contributed to the dukkha? And then we need to, almost with our good sense of calm and ease and soothing body, heart and mind, calm down, and maybe then we can have a look into where do I truly have a possibility, an option to change something in the very small scales usually. But this is a lovely way, and we all practice that, I'm sure, to some degree already. But some forms of dukkha will not be able to address that way. Some forms of dukkha are in their nature not under our control, like, for example, aging, or like loss, or like sickness. And we could think our ways through till the cows come home, and you would not be able to make a significant change to the fact, yes, I'm aging, I think we played a bit, even with this mechanism, to saying, if you buy this cream, and if you do this type of sport, and you eat these things, you can slow down that process. Or I even read about a book advertisement the other day where they said how to not age or not die. We're played by this mechanism of, if you think about it long enough, hard enough, you will find the puzzle pieces which will stop this process. There will be some forms of dukkha in our lives which are beyond our control. And sometimes it's even in the nitty-gritty of the everyday that we just cannot fully understand the dynamic. We can't look into the other. Sometimes it happens so quickly, we can't see it with a lot of clarity even with ourselves. And there might be too many factors, and it might not be completely transparent. So if this would be the only road, we would have a certain amount of challenging situations which we would find probably hard to practice with. This is what the second important question is. So dear to me as well. And that second form of questioning, of being with the dukkha, that inquires into the reaction and response to dukkha. Yeah, I can't fully understand how it comes together, or I might at this point in time feel like I have not a lot of control or impact over the arising and the presence of that in my life. But what I can do is I can look into the reaction response to that dukkha. Dukkha, very easily understood, comes along with some sort of unpleasant feeling. Dukkha is an unpleasant experience. And that will be all the spectrum, from something as simple as boredom. Boredom is dukkha. Yeah. Being grumpy is dukkha. Yeah. And you will notice that being impatient is dukkha. Yeah. And you will notice, very subtle, but it's there, an unpleasant feeling, some restlessness, some friction in your experience. And it goes the full range to, of course, aging and sickness and death have a degree of dukkha in them. Yeah. And please don't confuse it with what we hear sometimes about the First Noble Truth, that life is dukkha, life is suffering. It's not. There are many pleasant experiences and a lot more neutral experiences to it. But to some form, we can notice that the unpleasant belongs. Yeah, the unpleasant belongs. But the unpleasant triggers our heart minds. Yeah, our body, heart, and minds, here to protect and stabilize our life. They send out the messages in form of impulses, of thoughts, sometimes of emotions, to say, do something about this unpleasant experience. I feel threatened, I feel not safe, I feel like I'm lacking something, etc., etc. So dukkha comes in, heart-mind response quite naturally. And now a lot of our practice is to hold that in caring attention, to say, oh, I see, dear heart-mind, you're suggesting to do this and that. But from a lot of life experience, I know that this is a dead end. Yeah, if we're going to do that, we're going to suffer much more. So with all the caring wisdom I have, and fully respecting you, that you want to keep me safe, we're not going to do that. Yeah, we're going to try to do something else. Now, when this very first, that is a chain of dependent arising. Yeah, it's just like a cascade of things happening. Dukkha comes in, it touches our sensitivity, our heart minds, and the heart mind response. Very first natural, habitual response. Sometimes this response can crystallize, it can harden into something. I have to have, I need to, etc. The last thing I want is, yeah, and it becomes a form of urge or thirst. And this is what the Buddha talked about in this sutta as well. He thought about an urge or a thirst. We feel driven, we feel pushed, we feel pulled, we feel our happiness depends on something. Yeah, and you can notice from a first, quite natural wish, yeah, it hardens into something which a lot of I and self then all of a sudden are in the picture. And then you can feel the drive behind that. And this thirst, this tanha, sometimes we translate that with clinging. That is itself a form of dukkha. Yeah, even if it's something pleasant we are after, you will notice this drivenness. You will notice how you almost lean out of yourself. Yeah, it can be physically felt very clearly, leaning out of ourselves. And that tanha, that clinging, is dukkha itself. And we will speak about clinging a lot this week. So if you have heard this word, and we hear it a lot in Buddhist circles before, and you weren't so sure what clinging is and who is doing that clinging, pardon me, we're going to talk about that as well. So we almost have like a full circle, and that's the last thing I'm going to mention for today. We are touched by unpleasant experiences all of the time. Dukkha is arising in smaller and larger scales all of the time, and our heart minds want to respond to that. Yeah, they want to protect and stabilize our lives. And sometimes you will notice how a small response starts to crystallize, starts to harden. It becomes an imperative, it becomes a thirst, it becomes an urge. And that itself is dukkha then. Usually we react to that again, yeah, and then you go on the merry-go-round on and on, yeah. It's the wheel of samsara, the Buddha said, the wheel of ongoing dukkha, ongoing suffering in our lives. And we're here to realize that. We're here to suffer less, and I hope we can make a contribution to that this week. And if you wish to practice with this, just notice dukkha arising, reaction of the heart mind to this unpleasantness, and then sometimes maybe you catch such an urge, how it hardens into such an urge. And if you have questions upon that, we can share after the meditation. But now let's sit, let's lie down, let's walk, let's come to a meditative posture of your preference this morning. When you find your posture, maybe we don't drop right into a formal state of meditation. Rather notice where your body, or maybe your mind, your thoughts as well, feel pushed to, pulled to, pushed away from, urged towards. It might be something very small, or a larger theme in your life. And we do so by just sitting and notice what is arising. Maybe you notice some tension, some agitation, maybe some tiredness as well in the body. Maybe your body this morning, it can't just simply arrive here. Something in the past, maybe further away or very recent, touched upon your sensitivity, and the body is still agitated, still trying to protect and defend, ready to do and ready to act, filled with a sort of charge, energy charge. And seeing it like that, seeing the echo of the past challenges still reverberating in your body. Can we meet this body with a lot of softness, saying, "Oh, dear one, that shook up the whole system. Dear body, may you find a way to soften, to relax, to arrive." maybe our mindfulness can be just that, a safe space where the body slowly, slowly can discharge some of this agitated energy, some of that echo to life. Maybe every now and then you meet a place which doesn't discharge so easily, which is strongly, strongly holding on to some tension. And rather than working on that and then dissolving that, can we be a bit more respectful and saying, wow, maybe the body felt truly, really frightened, but needed truly to defend or be strong. We shall not put pressure on him, on it, on her, to release that tension quickly. Saying, I see, you still need to hold on to that. It's okay. Our mindfulness can be soft and broad and open, aware of the entire body. No need to zoom in or fall in on anything, as if it could hold the whole body in a warm embrace, saying, it's okay, dear one. Not a mindfulness which urges the body to change and to relax on command, but just maybe a kind companion. Some of us maybe experience a very active mind, discursive thinking this morning. Lots of thoughts and images. And can we meet that too with a lot of respect? That is the thinking faculty, which is trying to solve and figure out and find ways to manage and to control, and just another aspect of keeping us protected, healthy, striving thing. Oh, dear mind. You're so much in the habit of thinking it through. It's hard for you to stop, right? Or maybe you can even notice a physical resonance of all that thinking, that worrying, that planning. And rather than stopping the thoughts, can you invite that area of the body to soften, saying it's okay. If the echo, if the resonance to dukkha, to the challenges in your life, feels like too much this morning, the resonance can be quite strong. Feel free to bring in something else on purpose. There's no need to overwhelm the heart mind. You would just create more dukkha. Maybe open the eyes and just look around in the room whenever you feel like it. Or maybe you purposefully take in 3 or more very nourishing inhales and exhales as a gift. Gift to this body, to this heart. All the time you might notice how the first wave of echoes slows down gently. It might not subside completely. And there might be places in your heart, in your mind, in your body which will resonate for way longer. And that's okay. Just see that after a while, first maybe a superficial wave calms down, and see whether now has come the point to anchor the attention somewhere, to root, to ground the attention, maybe in just feeling your hands or your breath, maybe in gently spanning the attention over the whole body. See what fits for you this morning. And maybe you notice when you do so that there is a reaction, a response in the being saying, oh no, not yet. And please listen to that. Allow yourself just to sit and lie and stand and invite the body to discharge further. And maybe you can feel a natural rising of the mind to say, I want to be grounded now. I want to almost be held safely in a nutshell. To get a rest from making and doing and controlling and planning. And while doing so, while we root our attention, our awareness in an anchor, you might notice other waves of echoes, of resonance with past experience. You might notice that something asks for attention and wants to be noticed. And can you gently turn to that which is asking for attention and feel it out and recognize it? Oh, this too. This too is an echo to the challenges and the frictions and the unsatisfying moments in my life. And after a while, you might feel ready to return to the anchor, saying thank you. It doesn't have to stop, you don't need to solve it. Maybe just this respectful paying attention is enough. Maybe some compassion to say, oh wow, there is another echo. It feels unpleasant, it feels aching, it feels tight. It's not easy to have all these echoes within. They keep us so agitated. So accompany it for as long as it feels right, and then when you have a yearning towards more stillness, to withdraw from it, you might want to come back to your anchor, whatever you chose. Hands or feet on the floor, breathing, whole body awareness. You could even go to listening or looking around in the room. And at the end of our practice, we want to span out our attention and just notice how much charge, how much resonance with the challenge has left us. Just see if you could make a gift to body, heart and mind and unburden them in some way. And if we let go of the idea that this would have to be total relaxation, total discharge, maybe not possible, maybe not now. Could we find some joy, maybe even some lightness, some contentment in that which opened up, that which softened, that which feels a little lighter? And then I invite you to start gently stretching and moving, yawning and sighing. Gentle movement for the body, bringing it back into space and time. And when you feel ready, you can come back to the screen. So I find this a very gentle and respectful practice. To think of meditation not as something where you reach a goal, but sometimes it's maybe the place where a body, heart and mind gets the time to unburden themselves from all the reactions, which then fuel further reactions and so on. But just like kind of a, how do you call that in English? Seizure, like Zäsur we say in Germany, where it's like an empty place where we do not experience further dukkha, but actually have a moment to breathe through and create a pause in what else will just continue to create circles. So I'm very curious how you felt about this practice. Any challenges which came up? Want to hear about them too? Maybe you have some questions on what I talked about today. Happy to inquire with you, and maybe just some insights, some recognition of that ongoing process, whatever it is. Just feel free to share. And Susan started. I think this might be an example of what you described. My birthday was last week. Happy birthday. I received only 3 birthday cards, but also several text messages to wish me a happy birthday. This didn't feel enough. I felt hurt and distressed. My heart mind told me the story that nobody cared and that I wasn't valued. This happens a lot. I seem to have an expectation or need for proof. How can I overcome this automatic reaction or respond differently? I dismiss it as small suffering, but it feels painful. And that is so important, Susan. It feels painful, and I truly appreciate your honesty here and sharing this with us, because these might be the small but very painful things we really suffer with, but feel like they are not pretty enough to share them in public. So thank you, as a lot will be able to relate to that. Let us look into what happened on our we celebrate birth. My son has his 9th birthday, by the way, today, and I think he would totally relate to what you write. Birthday is kind of celebrated in our circles as the day of mudita, where we celebrate and appreciate someone being with us. So this is a beautiful perspective, and it can bring some dukkha with it. If we create the measurement, how many birthday cards and texts do I get, and how many would I get to feel appreciated enough? We create a form of measurement, and now this form of measurement, this perspective is here. We went now into the backwards direction, that these are the causes and conditions which brought together the dukkha. There is the painful perspective to say, X amount of notices will create a feeling of appreciation within me. And if it's less than that, dukkha will arise. Okay. Doesn't help much because the perspective doesn't change quite quickly, does it? So now we need to deal with the response. And you can feel the pang, maybe over the day already, maybe almost this yearning for more messages. And you can feel how this is building. Not enough, not enough. Yeah. And out of this sense of not enoughness, you spotted that quite well, a clinging, a thirst arose. Yeah, I want to have more. I need to have more. I need this proof. I need this confirmation of worth and value. And that is tanha. That is the tanha, to become to become a person who feels very much loved and appreciated and seen and heard by others through the confirmation of birthday cards. Yeah. This first pang and hurt, maybe this isn't something you can't change so quickly. Yeah. But what we can do is to see, yeah, there is this sense of hurt, and I'm not allowing that to harden, to crystallize into that interpretation. I'm putting maybe other interpretations next to it. To say, I might ask my dear heart mind to say, okay, dear heart mind, how many birthday cards would it need to feel appreciated? Is there a number to it? Or a friend of mine, every time before her birthday, she calls everyone and lets them know that her birthday is coming up. She finds it very important, and she reminds all of us that her birthday is coming up and that we shouldn't forget about that. So that would be an alternative. I don't know if you want to choose that. It could be like tapping into that one person who wrote a birthday card and just feel very much connected to the appreciation in that card. Yeah, to put that person in front of you, bring up a bit of metta practice and drink that in, rather than going into the scarcity, the not enoughness, tapping into there is someone, there are a few people, and can I really connect with their appreciation for me? And just, play with alternative reactions to that initial response of ouch. It feels like ouch. I would be interested, Susan, if there was something in it for you. Yeah, Eva is writing. I know chitta can be translated as heart mind, but I don't really understand heart mind. Yes, great question, Eva. Now, chitta is not only the intellectual thinking component of our being, and it's not only the emotional feeling component of our being. It's both. Yeah, the Buddha did not make a distinction between these different faculties with which we are reacting and relating to experiences. Yeah, so you can almost say a dukkha, an impulse is coming in, and sometimes the heart mind reacts by creating a certain emotion. Yeah, like we heard, a sense of hurt, or it creates, it goes into thinking. Oh, how am I going to deal with this? I need a plan. Yeah, so different faculties try to manage our experiences with different reactions, and all that, our sensitivity and our responses, the Buddha sums up under the term chitta. So quite a large concept here. Now, Eva, if you like to, let me know whether that was helpful or whether you have any following up questions. What else came up for you? By the way, we're going to talk about tomorrow about how important it is to understand that these reactions are natural. Yeah, these reactions are so natural, just as Susan described her reaction. The initial reaction, sometimes it's a wish, it's a need, it's a desire, and that is beautiful, and that has its place in our lives, so that no one comes to the idea that I'm teaching a teaching here which wants us to give up all those reactions to dukkha. Yeah, that would be a very unhuman attempt. Maria is writing, I feel acceptance is something that helps me with dukkha when it appears. Yeah. Could you please talk a bit about the relationship between acceptance and dukkha? Yes, Maria. Lovely. Yeah, sometimes acceptance is possible. Yeah, sometimes you can endeavor into what fuels, what nourishes acceptance. Yeah, to say this dukkha belongs to my life. It's not a mistake. I can actually make room for it to be part of my life at this point in time. Yeah. And the question is, what allows you, Maria? And that would be maybe very interesting for the others as well. What allows you to bring up acceptance? I find acceptance is the result of a process. Yeah, to say initially we would all say, oh no, I'd rather not have that dukkha. Yeah, but what allows me to say, okay, I can make room for that. I can allow that to be part and aspect of my life right now. Yeah, and that might be because A, we're nourished enough. B, we have worked and seen through that which can't and don't want to accommodate. Yeah, maybe there is a form of grief, and maybe there is a form of friction with it initially. Yeah, and maybe we need to work through that. Yeah, and at the end of this process, there stands acceptance. We might feel like we have a lot of support and other forms of nourishment so that we can hold and be with that dukkha. It is not overwhelming. Yeah. So for me, is the question always, what allows for acceptance to arise? Now Eva is writing, is it that emotions and thinking is very much related and not separate? Yeah, I would almost say if we watch that, thinking fuels emotion, emotion fuels thinking, certain states of emotion will have a lot of thinking with them. You might notice how just one arising thought can change the inner emotional landscape, and so it makes a lot of sense to not separate them into heart versus mind, but to say, well, they're so closely related and they're so interwoven with each other. We just say heart mind, where all different faculties belong. Yeah. This is writing. I'm away from home in a challenging situation, caring for others. It has been long awaited. I've been anticipating it for weeks, arrived on Sunday. My skin, especially on my scalp, is suddenly super sensitive. Like every nerve ending is setting off one at a time. I imagine it is related to me being on guard. I want to scratch a lot. Some words of encouragement to be with could help a lot. Yeah, Lucy, thank you so much for sharing this. Sometimes, even though situations are anticipated and we know it's coming up, the stress of the situation itself is yet another ball game. Yeah. So to have an understanding that the situation, whatever it is, Lucy, is highly stressful. It puts body, heart, and mind under a lot of need to protect and guard you. Yeah. And maybe there is something we can say, a heart mind, to say, well, this is a stressful situation, but here is a moment of calm, and here is a moment of ease, and here is a moment of not having to do anything, and to find in this density of the day small moments where we can really be aware and signal back to our heart minds to say, this is a moment of okayness. Yeah. So it does not need to protect us all of the time. And over the time, you might even play with the heart minds and convince them that we can say, well, now is really a time to take good care of me. This is a really stressful conversation. This is a really stressful moment. And now is a time where we can acknowledge out of the situation, out of the role, maybe even going for a walk. Yeah. And discharging. I think in such situations, it's, at least for me, better not to aim for complete relaxation. That itch might stay there. Yeah. That sense of being charged might stay there because it's a challenging situation. If I put this pressure upon myself to say, I should be super relaxed right now, I should be able to calm down immediately, completely, I think we're heightening the stress and the demand upon ourselves and create more dukkha. I want to be the person, yeah, who is able to be completely relaxed in that situation. Ouch, yeah. So maybe a lot of compassion, say, wow, dear heart mind, I see how stressful this is for you. And can I show you and nourish you with little moments of okayness in the middle of that? I hope there is some form of support in that, in these words. And may you be well, Lucy. Alison, My suffering seems to be taken up with thoughts, constant thinking about my difficulties. Yeah, I try and see where it is in my body to get away from the thinking, but I don't seem to be able to connect with the pain in my body. Can you speak about this, please? Yes, Alison. Many thanks for this question. Important here, yeah, to say there is a lot of dukkha somewhere, and a symptom of that are the many, many thoughts. The mind might, the way your body, heart, mind approaches this particular dukkha is to think about it. And thinking feels like the way to go. And so as long as the threat, the pressure is in the room, so to say, the mind just can't stop thinking. Yeah, it's not feeling safe, so it won't stop thinking. If we go to the dukkha too quickly now, yeah, if we just turn around and find the dukkha, and we can overwhelm ourselves. So this might be the reason where your chitta says, not so quickly, Alison. That might overwhelm us, and I'm protecting us from that as well. So maybe we need to step away from thinking, but not towards the dukkha. We need a middle stance there and say, can I step away from the thinking and bring in something which calms and soothes and nourishes before I go to that dukkha? Yeah, that can be some pleasant feeling, that can be listening to some music, that can be maybe a practice of metta, where you use a bit of that thinking energy to create something nourishing. Yeah, all of this. What is the step in between? Yeah. Could you imagine of something, Alison? Anything which feels attractive to you? Yeah. Thank you so much for these sharings. They were deep and they were rich, and I love how much compassion is in the room right now. We're all going through those challenging moments, and having the space here where we can be honest and sincere about them and feel how much compassion arises from the others is so beautiful. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the theme that reaction is natural. Yeah, we maybe can put a little bit of a shame and a sense of guilt out of our system to say, well, it's natural that the heart mind is reacting to the dukkha, and let's see how we can go further from that. And wish you a good time until we see each other tomorrow. Thank you.